The Racing Pod
on Off the Ball
with William Hill. Best odds guaranteed on all Irish. The Racing Pod
on Off the Ball
with William Hill. Best odds guaranteed on all Irish and UK racing. 18 plus. See gamblingcare.ie.
You are welcome to the Racing Pod. David Jennings and myself, Johnny Ward, on the show today. We're going to talk about some cracking racing over the weekend in Ireland, principally at Naas. We have some good action actually in Cork on Sunday as well. I'm going to be there for that. And we have the big stuff in Newmarket and some cracking racing actually across the water over the next couple of days with Aidan O'Brien and Willie Mullins, among others, strongly represented. We are delighted to bring you this show every Friday, and it includes analysis, race previews, tips, stories, interviews and crack. The first half of the pod each week will be free to air, and the second part will be exclusively for members. To be sure to sign up, go to offtheball.com/join, and you won't want to miss out on all of the info. So we'll talk about some of the horses that were bought during the week in an absolutely extraordinary couple of days at Tattersall's. But before all of that, how are you, DJ?
I'm good, Johnny. Yeah, good to be here.
What did you make of... I felt it was a somewhat underwhelming Prix de l'Arc Triomphe last Sunday. First, third and fifth for Camelot. No luck for the Irish. And well-backed winner, actually, in the end of Blue Stocking.
Very well-backed winner. Yeah, I'd be like you, Johnny. Kind of a good arc, not a great one. Are we going to remember it in really well in 10 years' time? Probably not. But, you know, Blue Stocking is one of these fillies where if we were on a show like this at the start of the season and you said Blue Stocking was going to win the Arc, I think everybody listening would laugh at us. But she just kept on improving, and she obviously was very good in the Pretty Polly at the Curragh when she beat Emily Upjohn. And she just kept on progressing throughout the season. Look, is she a superstar? She's not. But she's a really, really talented mare who is now an Arc winner. And she took her chance. I always find with the Arc, especially when it comes to that stage of the season, and you know, so often you've got soft ground. It's about taking your chance. Like, it's about Alpinista took her chance, and like I thought Blue Stocking took her chance. They supplemented her for a big fee, and they got rewarded in spades. It was her big day, and she took it, Johnny.
Just speaking to Emma Nagle about it, she was over there. The crowd wasn't that great. She said it didn't feel like the atmosphere felt a bit flat. A crowd of, what was it, just over 20,000, I think was the figure, which is a lot down on the Arcs of before. Would you say this is a concern? I know they've kind of upped the prices at Longchamp in recent years.
It is a concern. Now, it was a desperate day, and I think talking to people that were over there, it was a horrible, murky morning, and like that accounts for some of it. I don't think, you know, the couple of thousand that didn't come compared to the year before, it was completely down to the weather. It's just a worrying trend, isn't it? Like in racing in general. Like, I did a piece on the Irish Champions Festival where I was in Leopardstown, and
you were quite hard hitting.
I was quite hard hitting, and sometimes you have to be, Johnny. When you believe strongly in something, you have to say what you think. And I was there at Leopardstown that day, and I don't even know whose fault it is, to be honest with you, because I was there and you had a brilliant card. I have to say, of all the tracks in Ireland, possibly my favourite to go racing in is Leopardstown. The Dublin Racing Festival is fantastic. I love Christmas at Leopardstown. I just love Leopardstown. And I was there that day, and I was thinking to myself, God, you know, you could have kicked football in the place, and you were kind of going, how has this happened? Like, and I think it is a trend in racing in general where crowds, and we can't judge everything by crowds. Like, we look at football, all sports, you know, crowds are suffering because you have so much access to stuff at home. But yeah, the Arc it's part of a kind of a recurrent theme in racing at the moment, Johnny.
I don't feel racecourses at times do enough in terms of really going out to attract like businesses to bring like their kind of workers to the races on a certain day. Like, it shouldn't be that hard if the weather is okay, and even if the weather isn't, for say Leopardstown and the Curragh for that weekend in September, to actually get more people there. And one other worrying trend, DJ, as well, since I started going to Leopardstown about 20 odd years ago, the summer nights there have gone really quiet, and that used to be a brilliant night out. And I know there's kind of controversy over the ticket prices because it's merged in terms of a package with the band afterwards, but that used to be a great night. It starts earlier now, so workers coming from work, I suppose, they miss a good few of the races, and it just seems to have gotten out of the habit. People seem to have gotten out of the habit of doing it, sadly.
It does, and we had some great times there, Johnny. We had many a drunken night at Leopardstown when we used to work together. God be with the days.
Just to clarify, we weren't working on these nights now, in fairness.
No, this was pure. We could have been. We got the bands afterwards, but
I've been over in the Cheltenham press room one day, and I remember a journalist kind of taking swigs out of a can under the table. And I was like, at least we'll be professional while we're working anyway.
yeah, it was something
names,
like that.
No names.
Yeah, I can imagine who that was. There's those summer nights with the bands, and even the caliber bands that are playing at Leopardstown. Like it used to be, I think actually, in fairness to them, I think Razorlight actually did play there last year. But we just need to have a good hard look at some of the different offerings we're given. And as you say, as somebody said to me, the way when you're trying to get people into racing and you give away just free tickets, or you get people to go racing, it's always for the kind of the minor days and the days where it doesn't really matter, industry days where you might give free tickets to racing during the week or something. Maybe we should focus on maybe getting people to the big days, and if we happen to have giveaways with tickets or reduced ticket prices, and maybe for a year or so have really reduced ticket prices where maybe it's a tenner in or something like that, or even a fiver for under 20s or under 21s or something, and you actually get them to experience what it's like on one of the bigger days, like an Irish Champions Festival or like a Dublin Racing Festival, and then they say, actually, this is actually brilliant. And instead of maybe giving them free tickets to go to something that's boring and there's no entertainment and there's no buzz and they don't get to experience what we love about racing, if you actually got them to go to a big day and experience it that way, maybe that's a way to get them back, and maybe that's something that could be looked at in the future.
What's your take on the amount of races at the moment? Like a lot of double meetings here in the middle of the week in October. I think it's around 45 odd meetings in Ireland in October. This October, obviously. It just seems like it's been never ending almost since April or March. Obviously, I suppose the horses seem to need it, although field sizes are a little bit down. But it does feel like racing is almost like just never ending at the moment.
It does, yeah. I think there definitely is too much racing. Somebody said to me the other day, I think, is there only one day in October where there's not racing in Ireland?
Yeah.
That's astonishing. Like, it is hectic, and, sometimes the quality does suffer, obviously. But then I suppose you'll be into November pretty soon, and the kind of stars of the jumping game are going to be coming back out. I always think kind of Down Royal is the real big starting point. When you get that Down Royal, the first grade one of the season in Ireland, it really kicks off from there. But yeah, you'd have to say, Johnny, there's too much racing. Like, and when you look at some of the cards at the moment, they wouldn't actually entice you in, would they?
Yeah, and a lot of 35-minute gaps as well, like over even.
Well, that needs to go. That is, we need to. I often think racing would be such a better product. I know you can't make it like football, but imagine if you had a race day where everything was condensed into 2 hours or 2.5 hours, and you had like racing every 15 minutes, and it would just keep the whole thing flowing. It would keep people engaged, and we have to come up with some solution to get rid of these, never mind 35-minute gaps, get rid of 30-minute gaps. It's okay at the big meetings. There's so much, like if you think of a Cheltenham Festival, and there's the walk back in, there's the big arrival in, there's the welcoming and all that kind of stuff. So the races actually, when there is 40-minute gaps, as I think there is at Cheltenham, it doesn't feel like there's a big gap between races. But when you have the normal days, if you go to a race meeting where the first 4 races are sprints and they're over in a minute, and you have a 34-minute gap to the next race, it's an eternity. We need to figure out, it's something that the industry needs to work at. We need to figure out a way of getting shorter gaps between races and trying to see, can we get 20 minutes? Can we make it that there's 20 minutes between races? Because that, I think, would enhance the product massively.
Yeah, I've been at quite a lot of those days with 35-minute gaps, including, as you say, at Navan with 3 or 4 sprints at the start. And if you're telling people to go to a sport where over the course of 35 minutes, there's a minute of action, like a minute, 34 minutes of doing nothing. And the problem is, if you get people racing that day, they're not going to be inclined to come back. It's too boring. And I know the paymasters are obviously trying to get people betting in the betting shops and betting on their phones and betting on more races, but we're going down a slippery slope. Speaking of slippery slopes, DJ, Tattersalls October yearling sale. I feel a little bit sick when I see stories like this, where you see Kia Jurabchian, who's like Ammo Racing, spent 4.3 million guineas, and guineas obviously an anachronistic amount of money, but that's less than sterling and less than euro, so it's well over, what would it be, 5 million or so, more than 5 million euro. Kia overall spent, and Ammo Racing spent, was the guts of 12 million or so. The underbidder on the Wootton Bassett, I think, was Coolmore, Coolmore and or John Magner, and Coolmore obviously have Wootton Bassett. A Frankel horse went for absolutely obscene money. I was making the point, this horse by Wootton Bassett, right? What price will he be worth after he runs in his? What price will he be after he runs on debut?
Yeah.
How can he be any more? Like, how can he actually be worth any more? Does he have to win by 20 lengths? How can you justify spending 5 million on a horse that hasn't even run?
Yeah, but like, I suppose it's a case of, a horse at the moment, a 4-year-old that wins a point at the moment is worth more than Constitution Hill. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm just giving it in jumping terms. You're selling the dream. So when you can sell potential, is far more expensive than substance in this game. So you're everybody, like, and I presume that's what Kia is thinking. Like, everybody is trying to find the next Frankel, and they're hoping that, and listening to him being interviewed, he actually did I thought it was an interesting interview with Gina Bryce, where he seemed quite open and honest, and he said, look, we've put a lot of research into this. This is not just turning up on the day and sporadically spending these massive sums. Like, we've done our research, we've done the figures. We know that we need to, buy these unbelievably well-bred horses if we are to succeed and get to the next level. And you can look at the King of Steels and the Bucanero Fortes, but I think the way he lives his life, he wants to be operating at the top table all the time. And instead of hoping to get there, he's buying to get there. And, I think he said, like, who enjoys, I think one of his quotes is, who enjoys spending that amount of money? You don't, he says, but you have to do it. You have to buy the best stock to get to the top. And that's what he's done. But some of the figures, Johnny, they're absolutely astronomical, aren't they?
Yeah, like, it basically, the price of a horse is dictated by, if two people with a lot of money and egos, or particularly money, want to buy a horse, they'll end up both outbidding each other, and basically then it's whoever realises that this is so ridiculous, I just have to pull out here. And kind of that was, the case where you had the likes of Godolphin. I think Sheikh Mohammed was there. I don't know. I'd say he was surrounded by security men at all times and all that, lest he be asked any awkward questions and all of that. Kia was there, and obviously the Coolmore guys were there. So you've these big operators there, but it's a massive amount of money. And I suppose the other end of it then, DJ, is if you are sort of the lower end of the scale with horses, like, horses are actually the trade at the top level is very good, but then when you get down from the absolute elite, it's very, very hard for a lot of vendors to actually sell their horses. And I suppose that goes back to prize money versus how much it costs to train horses in Ireland and Britain generally.
Yeah, I think we're getting a false snapshot of the overall picture. We're seeing all the headline acts, and we're seeing these multi-millionaires, billionaires spending huge money. Like it is astronomical, especially for the fillies. When you think those 2 Frankel fillies that Kia bought, that, like, I think it was 6,900 guineas, the 2 of them combined, like, which is like, for fillies especially, it's astronomical. But when you do filter down the way and you look at it's
millions rather than thousands as well, just lest we have any confusion. Millions.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Millions. Yeah, millions. Apologies. It's when you make a good point there. When you look lower down the scale and see the difference, like, it is literally chalk and cheese. Like, it's you can't compare them. And it's okay when you see, these beautifully bred fillies going for these huge amounts of money. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily mop up the mess at the lower end of the scale. So I do think there is a bit of a false snapshot when you're seeing all these headlines of where we are as an industry as a whole.
What's your take on prize money in Ireland at the moment?
I think it's obviously a lot better than Britain, and I think we are holding it up as best we can. It's a funny one because if you're an owner of a horse, you're not necessarily getting into it. And it's, there'll be listeners listening to this and they'll be saying this sounds like nonsense. But when you buy a horse in Ireland, you're not buying that horse as an investment. You're not buying it to make money. You're hoping it'll make money, and you're hoping that will be a success and financially you'll make a few quid. But you're buying a pastime almost. You're buying something to take an interest in, and I think that's the thing with prize money. Like, you could have, a race at Cheltenham worth a tenner, and you would still get a very similar feel to what you get now. So that's obviously one part of it. But I do think in general, prize money for training fees at the moment and the way the game has gone, prize money has to keep increasing because, it's just impossible for the way everything has got dearer. Like, you ask any stables, you ask anybody, wages have gone up, everything has gone up. So for that reason, prize money has to improve and keep getting better. I do think in general we have a good handle on how important it is. I don't know what you think. I do think it is, top of the list of priorities. And, I've spoken to Suzanne Eade about this on occasions, and I know Davy Russell had a column in our paper last year, but or earlier on this year. But I think it's something that obviously always needs to be improved. But how you get to improve it, and do you pump all the money that racing is getting into prize money? Do you find other areas for it? I don't know. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, it's going to be challenging. Anecdotally, I think betting on racing is struggling. And I feel like if the government is basically paying, give or take, 50% of Irish prize money. So if that went, we'd be in serious bother. I think our prize money is poor actually in Ireland. The more we look at it, I do agree. HRI are very cognizant of it, and there's no easy answer because you see with the British model as well, British prize money is poor as well. We can't compete with other nations. But it's just becoming less and less attractive to owners. The bills are getting more and more, and prize money is basically stagnant or going backwards. And you see, like 25 runner, say 0 to 70s in Navan, which are really hard to win, and it's like $6,000 to the winner. But let's move on. Newmarket tomorrow, DJ. I love this meeting. We'll start with the Cesar, which actually I got to get your view on. This is the 340 Newmarket tomorrow. Got to get your view on the Willie Mullins trained horse. Sea of Sands. Extremely hard to weigh up, and I feel he's obviously has a lot of potential, but you can't. Should he deserve to be as short as he is based on winning a maiden hurdle the other day?
No, he shouldn't. No, definitely not. Look, he could be anything, and who knows how much he has in hand. But he's still raised at 97, and we're judging him on one run in a Listowel maiden hurdle, where the Mediator was second for Gordon Elliott. The Mediator, look, he's a grand horse. He probably wouldn't be in the top 150 horses in Gordon Elliott's yard. Brave Fortune, who was third that day, I actually thought would run well, but just couldn't cope with the trip and just got tapped for toe. And like Special Cadeau, who was one of the joint favourites going into the race, I almost think it drifted out to 5-2. I think picked up a wound or something in the race or got a cut. So the form of that race, he was very impressive, and Patrick didn't come off the bridle. But if we're basing it on that, I think we're reading far too much into it, because it was just really a canter around Listowel. He was obviously in a different league to the horse he was running against. But it's just Willie Mullins, the Cesar, which the unknown quantity of the horse. And, in general, when Willie does send a horse like this to the Cesar, which he does tend to hit the target. But at the prices, Johnny, I think he's desperately underpriced. And
what do you like?
I like Jacovec Cavern for Willie's nephew Emmett. Haley Turner rides. This horse, for anybody who backed this horse in Galway, ran at the Galway races during the summer and was second to Bustleton in a handicap, in a 2-mile handicap, was back from all prices into, I think it went off 11-4 favourite on the day. Michael O'Sullivan rode him on that occasion. Should have won, basically. Was just caught wide, and different things happened in the race that just didn't go according to plan. But Look, Emmett won the race last year with the shunter. Terrific trainer, terrific target trainer. I think there's some unbelievable target trainers in this country. And when Emmett does target one of the race, and I'd say he probably said to himself that mark of, I think it's running off 83 tomorrow in England. After Galway, let's be patient. There's a Cesar which to be won with this horse. We might get into the Irish one, which is worth an absolute fortune. But if we don't get into the Irish one, we'll get into the English one. And I think 2 Mile 2 at Newmarket is just going to be made for Jacobet Cavern, and Hayley Turner's booked to ride around about 7-1. I thought that was the play.
I'm going to give Aquam at a big price, eye-catching 6 in the Chester Cup. It's actually another son of Caesar Stars, like the favourite, but around about 33-1. Might be a little bit overpriced. William Hill paying 6 places on the race. We're actually going to wrap up the first half of the show for non-members, DJ. But I am going to get a nap from you. Before you give your nap, I'm going to give one at Newmarket. Genealogy, the second string for Ballydoyle. Yeah, in the Autumn Stakes, sponsored by Emirates, is available at 12-1. I see here. I love this horse's run. The last, you buy the much hyped Wooden Bassett. I just feel he's value in a 6-horse race. Give us your nap. Make mine a double J. What's yours, DJ?
Yeah, I thought the racing was interesting in England tomorrow. Is it okay? Can I go to Chepstow? Am I allowed to go to Chepstow? I'll go to the 2:45 at Chepstow. I like Insurrection for Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden. It's a meeting that Paul Nicholls tends to do very well at. This horse has got some serious back form, and I think he's really talented. He won at Exeter last season, and he beat a horse called Diamond Ree and Asta La Pasta, which I thought was really strong form. And it just looks to me like your typical kind of horse for Paul Nicholls that is going to improve drastically for Fences. And I think he's a nice horse, and I think he could have a good season this season. So in the 2:45 at Chepstow, Insurrection, please, Johnny.
Lovely stuff. Thanks to DJ, and we're staying off the second half. This is the Racing Pod and Off the Ball. If you listen to the free version of the podcast, we're leaving you here. If you're looking for more, including our analysis of additional races at Newmarket and Naas this weekend, go to offtheball.com/join to subscribe. Get the full podcast every Friday with all our racing tips, insights, and stories from this week's action. So